The singularity of the universe and the collapse of relativity at the moment of the explosion. Stephen Hawking says in his book The Universe in a Nutshell, if the theorems that Penrose and I proved have shown that the universe must have had a beginning, they have not given much information about the nature of that beginning. These theorems indicate that the universe began with a Big Bang, at a point where the entire universe, with everything in it, was compressed into a single point of infinite density. At this point, Einstein's general theory of relativity breaks down, and therefore it cannot be used to predict how the universe began. Thus, we find ourselves left in a position where it appears that the question of the origin of the universe lies beyond the scope of science. This scientific admission from one of the greatest symbols of modern physics reveals a central truth concerning the limits of human reason when attempting to understand the absolute beginning of material existence. Science is capable of describing what happens after the emergence of space and time, yet it stands powerless before that point known as the singularity, where the very laws through which it measures and analyzes the universe cease to function. At that point, Einstein's equations stop working, and the lines of time disappear into a mysterious void inaccessible to scientific instruments. Here we find ourselves before a question that transcends the framework of the laboratory and the equation, the question of the origin from which space, time, energy, and matter emerged, a point beyond which science offers no explanation, as though it admits that the beginning of existence is outside its jurisdiction. What applies to the universe applies to life as well. Science can study how biological processes unfold, evolve, and become more complex after life already exists, but it remains perplexed before the moment in which inert molecules became a living organism possessing reproduction, continuity, and apparent purpose. Thus, the same question emerges once again. How did everything begin? Science takes over after the beginning of the universe and after the beginning of life, but it does not provide an explanation for how those beginnings themselves originated. As long as science acknowledges its inability at the point of origin, then the claim of denying the existence of a creator on the basis of scientific tools is groundless, because the tool itself is incapable of issuing judgment within this context. Hawking also says in Black Holes and Baby Universes and other essays, time itself may simply be undefined before a certain point. If we go backward in time, we may come to a barrier that cannot be crossed, a singularity beyond which one cannot go. If that is the case, then it would have no meaning to ask about the cause of the Big Bang. At first glance, this explanation offered by Hawking appears to be a philosophical attempt to close the door on the question of what came before the Big Bang. In reality, however, it does not eliminate the question. Rather, it confirms that scientific tools stop at the singularity and cannot go beyond it. If time itself is a product of the Big Bang, then science cannot describe what preceded time, because it possesses no tools capable of measuring or explaining anything outside the framework of space and time. Yet the question remains with full force: why did time arise in the first place? What brought the universe from non-existence into existence? Suspending inquiry into the question does not invalidate it. Rather, it is an implicit admission that human reason must seek an answer beyond the limits of pure physics, toward metaphysics, which asks about the first cause that depends on nothing else. Hawking also writes in Black Holes and Baby Universes and other essays, relativity and quantum mechanics allow matter to be created from energy in the form of particle/antiparticle pairs. Where does the energy come from to create this matter? The answer is that it is borrowed from the gravitational energy of the universe. The universe has a huge debt of negative gravitational energy, exactly balanced by the positive energy of matter. During the inflationary period, the universe borrowed heavily from its gravitational energy to finance the creation of more matter. The result was a triumph of Keynesian economics, an expanding active universe filled with material objects, and the debt of gravitational energy need not be repaid until the end of the universe. Although this statement may seem to offer an explanation for the appearance of matter from energy, it is entirely dependent upon the prior existence of physical laws and an already existing cosmic framework. When physicists use the term creation, they do not mean true creation from absolute nothingness, rather they mean transformations within existence itself, the conversion of energy into matter. Absolute nothingness is something entirely different. No laws, no energy, no quantum vacuum, and not even probabilities exist within it. Attributing creation to gravity is merely a change of terminology without changing the underlying reality. Gravity is not an intelligent agent that chooses or acts independently, it is a natural property associated with matter and energy. If negative gravitational energy exists within the universe, then who established the law that made gravitational energy negative and material energy positive in such precise balance? Who granted the universe this potential in the first place? All of these remain theoretical assumptions attempting to bypass the fundamental question concerning the origin of existence. The departure of Hawking and others from the domain of experimental science as they approach the point of beginning reveals that scientific reasoning itself pushes toward acknowledging the limits of matter and its laws. At the singularity, science no longer dominates the field, rather it withdraws, leaving humanity before the greater reality. The beginning of the universe does not belong entirely to the domain of physics, because it is the point at which the laws themselves collapse. And where laws collapse, the need appears for a source beyond the nature of the universe itself, a source that grants space, time, energy, and matter their existence from nothingness. Without such a source, no internal explanation can ultimately stand on its own. When we move from discussing the universe to discussing life, we encounter the same problem. Science explains development and transformation after life exists, but it remains unable to answer the question, how did inert matter become alive? Several hypotheses attempted to explain the origin of life, such as the primordial soup hypothesis, yet they failed to provide a true explanation for life's origin. In reality, I have not found a scientist capable of overcoming this question except Darwin, when he referred to the Creator breathing life into existence. God Almighty challenged humanity, as stated in the Quran, O people, an example is presented, so listen to it carefully. Indeed, those whom you invoke besides Allah will never create even a fly, even if they gathered together for that purpose. And if the fly should snatch away something from them, they could not recover it from the fly. Weak are both the seeker and the sought. Even the tiny fly, which many may see as insignificant, cannot be created by human beings even if all humanity united together. This simple reality demonstrates that the power of true creation does not belong to mankind regardless of scientific advancement. Although some modern scientific experiments attempt to simulate birth through artificial womb technology using existing sperm cells and egg cells, this is not creation from nothingness. It is merely the manipulation and development of what already exists. Human beings have not produced a fully living organism from absolute nothingness, because such origination remains outside the scope of science and experimentation. Likewise, science cannot explain the ultimate origin of the universe itself. Every physical hypothesis explains what happened after the Big Bang, yet remains unable to answer the deeper question: how did the universe begin? What brought matter, energy, time, and space out of nothingness? These questions transcend the tools of science because they concern that which has no beginning within time and space, except through a creator who brought them forth from absolute non-existence. Science can explain order after the beginning, but it remains unable to explain the beginning itself, whether of life or of the universe. Thus, both the universe and life testify to the existence of a first cause, a creator capable of bringing existence out of nothingness, a creator who breathed life into matter and made all existence possible. This challenge, as the Quran clarifies, remains open before humanity, so that people may recognize that all the order, precision, and complexity we observe cannot be mere coincidence, and that every beginning has a cause, and that cause is the Creator who brought all things into existence from absolute nothingness.